KREM 2 News begins now.
Thank you for joining us on KREM 2 Plus. I'm Tim Pham. This is your KREM 2 News Week in Review. Join us as we take a closer look at some of the biggest stories in the Inland Northwest this past week.
This summary of a 300-page DNR report shows wildland fire investigators knew within hours of the Gray Fire sparking it was likely because of faulty equipment owned by Inland Power and Light. A senior wildland fire investigator sums it up. Inland Power was responsible for this fire. DNR's investigation found the Gray Fire was caused by sparks from a security light traveling onto dry grass. It's unsurprising, but welcome news for attorneys John Allison and Gerald Singleton.
They're independent, they're objective, they don't have skin in the game other than to find the truth.
Obviously, we think very important that they agreed with our theory of the case.
In two separate lawsuits brought by hundreds of fire victims, investigators also pointed at faulty Inland Power and Light equipment as the fire's cause. DNR's report details how a state investigator discovered the fire's origin at 12605 Gray Road, across from the Inland Light pole that showed signs of melting or burning. A V-shaped burn pattern shown here on photos from the scene also pointed the investigator to the fire's starting point. At least two witnesses reported seeing sparks coming from this pole after the fire started. But the report also shows there were concerns about the light months before the blaze.
Looks like they made a mistake, and it looks like their lines were what caused this. And so they're going to have to make it right.
One witness says she called Inland Power to report the light flickering from a possible loose wire. As far as she knew, Inland Power never followed up. DNR investigators took two pieces of the pole for evidence, but they didn't look like they fit together. It appeared there might be something missing to make these connections. Inland Power's attorney told investigators a crew that disconnected power shortly after the fire started brought three pieces back to the Spokane office. These three pieces were reviewed by a DNR investigator, and the attorney for Inland agreed the company would hold on to them as evidence after sending them to a California lab. However, DNR's investigator writes, when he went to pick up the evidence October 9th, one piece was missing. The lab reported an aluminum conductor with cut marks and melted aluminum wasn't sent, and Inland's attorney said he didn't know where that missing piece was. While the report may strengthen their cases, Singleton and Allison say the legal battle to reclaim uninsured losses isn't over.
I talked to one elderly woman who couldn't get insurance, and the fire took everything she had. I mean, she was left with the clothes on her back, and it's just heartbreaking.
They are still interviewing witnesses and compiling reports, preparing to possibly bring the cases to a jury.
We're trying to make the homeowners whole. In many ways, they'll never be able to accomplish that because of all they've been through, but we're doing the best we can.
Both attorneys believe these lawsuits could go to jury trial by next year if Inland Power doesn't settle first. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
6 months since the Gray Fire, and the picture is still grim here in Medical Lake. Now, this property was destroyed by the Gray Fire. And for families who lost homes in the Gray Fire, the report isn't surprising. And they say the report doesn't help with a long road ahead.
Robert Mountjoy has lived in Medical Lake for 19 years. He wasn't at home when the fire broke out on August 18th of last year. His wife was and only left with the clothes on her back.
It's a real hardship for us because we left with two shirts.
Throughout the last 6 months, Mountjoy and his family have done their best to recover.
I don't want to look back because it's very difficult.
When Mountjoy saw DNR's report that the Gray Fire was likely caused by sparks from an Inland Power light, he wasn't surprised. He says it confirmed what he knew all along.
I don't think it surprised anybody. The source of the fire. I don't think it came as any surprise.
Others say the report doesn't change anything.
My first reaction was, doesn't change anything. It's still burned down.
Terry Andrews lost his home on Silver Lake. He says the cause of the fire is the least of his worries now.
We're just looking forward to the future. We're looking at the positives, and the community has been amazing.
As for Mountjoy, he's ready for what's to come.
We're rebuilding on top of the existing foundation with a little different home.
Homes are slowly rising up in Medical Lake, and it's a heartwarming sight for Mountjoy and Andrews, who lost everything.
There were also a couple of names listed as witnesses in the report. I had a chance to speak with 2 of them. They say they're glad the report is complete and that it's a step forward for everyone affected. In Medical Lake, Nathan Hyun, KREM 2 News.
How do investigators go in and start finding that point of origin in a fire that moved this quickly and this far?
So typically, we attempt to dispatch fire investigators to a fire on the same day as ignition. We do that to protect the origin, looking for ignition causes, and beginning to identify people who may have information about the ignition source or have possibly been a witness.
What if you don't know where it started? How do you find it?
A lot of that just comes down to sort of early detection, phone calls from concerned citizens, potentially satellite data. Sometimes it's real obvious, especially for a wind-driven fire, you know, that where the black begins.
And so what do you look for if you suspect that it was maybe a power pole or a utility line? What are the hallmarks there?
That's a great question. You're looking for situations where, you know, power lines are damaged or in really overgrown areas. Again, kind of zeroing in on your ignition and origin to really kind of determine whether or not it's believed that a fallen power line or an arcing or sparking power line could have caused the fire. Using an eyewitness account, you know, if they've noticed sparking or arcing or other issues in an area in the past.
Why is it such a priority to find a point of origin and to figure out a cause? Why does that matter?
Especially with some of these larger fires, conducting an analysis of sort of how you can learn moving forward. You know, what can we do to better prevention? And I think a component of that value is sort of figuring out who is going to pay for fire costs.
So that potential liability is an important reason for doing these types of investigations on these big fires?
That's correct. Definitely. It's work that requires a lot of expertise. It's valuable work. And, you know, every fire investigation that we complete is another data point to furthering efforts in evolving wildfire suppression, community resilience, and public information.
In a surprising decision, the long-term Congresswoman has decided to not run for re-election this year. McMorris Rogers was appointed to the U.S. House of Representatives in 2004.
Early last year, the Congresswoman became the chair of the House Energy and Commerce Committee. McMorris Rogers is the first woman to chair the committee. Rogers' decision was surprising to all, both Republicans and Democrats in Spokane.
Not at all. This is furthest thing from this was not even a possibility. She's lots of experience.
Stephen Kirby is a chair for Spokane County Democrats. He says McMorris Rogers announcing her decision to not run for re-election is a game changer.
She was the leading contender. She's got a large bank, war chest, and having her step out of the way opens the field to the Democrats that are coming up. So I'm ecstatic.
On the other side,
it was quite the news. We were surprised at that. Yeah, I didn't know that was coming.
MJ Bolt, the chair of Spokane County Republicans, says even though she was surprised by the news, she's not concerned for her party's chance during this year's election.
I'm not worried. I think it's going to be interesting, for sure. We can't just stick our head in the mud and say it's going to be automatic.
From 2002 to 2003, McMorris Rogers was a House Minority Leader. Then in 2009, she became the highest-ranking Republican woman in Congress. Kirby is confident that without Rogers running, the Democrats will take the seat.
My expectation then is that given that Kathy's going to be out, it'll be a relative newcomer that having that we'll be able to get behind the new Democrat candidate and help them win.
While Bolt feels as though many people in eastern Washington don't want change and want another Republican in the seat.
We have Spokane, goes a little more blue, but Kathy has served in this role so well. I feel confident that we can secure this seat in November.
When McMorris Rogers announced her decision, she said, quote, "After much prayer and reflection, I've decided the time has come to serve them in new ways. I will not be running for re-election to the People's House." McMorris Rogers' exit leaves only one Republican in the U.S. House of Representatives from Washington State. Rogers did not say anything concrete about her next steps.
The Democratic Party tells me they have 3 candidates who are already in the running for the seat, while the Republican Party tells me they too have people who have expressed interest in running. In Spokane, Nathan Hyun, KREM 2 News.
one Shadel Park High School student is recovering from a stab wound, and another student is now in custody at the Spokane County Juvenile Center. Based on new documents filed, we now know that fight between those students had been brewing for some time. Spokane County juvenile court documents say one Shadel Park High School student wasn't getting along with another student, and they planned on fighting for some time. When those two students confronted each other in a bathroom alongside two other students, the fight started. Court documents say while the third student fought back, the defendant pulled out a knife and stabbed her in the chest. Spokane police later collected 2 knives from the fourth student. She admitted the knives belonged to her, but that she gave one of them to the defendant the day before the fight. Spokane police arrested the 17-year-old for first-degree assault. In my research today, I found several Instagram accounts relating to Shadel Park High School fights. This is just one of many videos of fights at the school posted over the past year. When asked how Spokane Public Schools is addressing this fight culture at Shadel Park High School, they sent this statement. The current tone at Shadel Park High School is calm. There has been no conflict or continuation of the fighting that occurred last week. If needed, students can meet with a school counselor. As we move into the second semester, we will continue to provide the predictability students need for continued healing. We encourage anyone experiencing safety concerns to connect with a trusted teacher, counselor, or administrator. I pressed the district to share what specific actions are being taken to combat the occurrence of these fights. The district said it already answered these questions in its press conference last week. I listened to the full press conference again. Spokesperson Sandra Gerard's message to parents last week was this.
We are building a culture of safety in all of our schools, so safety is everybody's responsibility.
Today, the district says it's building this culture of safety by persistently working to build relationships, encourage students and families to say something if they see something that's not safe, and inviting students to speak to their school counselor or a trusted teacher, or anonymously through the district's Let's Talk page. Now, as for the 17-year-old student who Spokane police arrested here last week, she made her first appearance in juvenile court yesterday. Now, she isn't formally charged yet, but she will remain in the juvenile detention center as she awaits her arraignment scheduled for February 13th. Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
Court documents reveal 35-year-old Mindy Wilson was on the phone with a friend the moment she was hit and killed Saturday night, crossing the intersection of East Empire and North Morton Street in northeast Spokane.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. We have Gary Neal Thompson.
70-year-old Gary Thompson is charged with vehicular homicide. Police say he was behind the wheel and told officers he went to adjust his radio and heard his car smack into something. Court documents show the collision launched Mindy Wilson, a substitute teacher in the Central Valley School District, into another lane where a separate car ran over her. Wilson died at the scene. According to court docs, Thompson was on his way home from the Black Diamond Bar in Spokane Valley and told police he started drinking with friends several hours earlier, splitting 2 pitchers of beer. Thompson also told police he smoked marijuana earlier that morning. Thompson was released without bond this weekend. During his first appearance this afternoon, prosecutors asked the court to remand him into custody and set bond at $100,000.
By releasing Mr. Thompson, the state believes it sends a clear message to the community at large that these crimes are not serious and are not treated seriously at this time. Driving under the influence is a major problem, with cases and fatalities on the rise.
Thompson's attorney argued the 70-year-old should not be locked up as his case moves forward.
He's got no prior criminal history, a lot of ties to the community. This was an instance of bad vision. An older person driving at night and a pedestrian in dark clothing, according to the police report. He'll abide by all those other conditions.
Thompson walked out of the courtroom a free man for now. And as part of his release conditions, Thompson is not allowed to have alcohol and must have interlock ignition devices or blow-and-goes installed in any of his vehicles if he plans to drive while his case moves forward. Reporting from the Spokane County Courthouse tonight, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
For For the first time in 6 years, both the bond and levy are included in the same election cycle. The major takeaway is that SPS already has several projects planned if the bond is passed, including right here at Adams Elementary School. So overall, voters will find on their ballots a bond representing $200 million for SPS. With those funds, the district says they will replace Adams and Madison Elementary School. The two individual schools are the oldest buildings in the district for the South Hill and for the North Side. Also planned the modernization of both North Central High School and Gary Middle School, and along with those projects, upgrades for Chase Middle School would also be in the works.
And that's what these bond improvement projects are about. It's not about expanding the experience. It's about maintaining what the community has come to expect in their public schools.
And for more context on this bond and levy, we reached out to SPS to identify the pass-fail rate when these items come around on the ballot. Over the last 26 years, voters have passed each bond and levy that has appeared during an election cycle. The bonds are used for major projects. The levies help fund district programs and operations. As for this upcoming election cycle, day of registration and voting ends at 8 p.m. on February 13th. But for now, reporting in Spokane, Brandon T. Jones, KREM 2 News.
I'm here at Coeur d'Alene High School, which is one of 18 schools in the district. $6 million. That's a deficit the school district faces next school year. The school district held a special meeting Monday night to discuss several options to save the district's 2025 operating budget.
There's a lot of weight on these kinds of decisions, and we don't take these decisions lightly.
Some options include a 4-day school week, closing an elementary school, larger class sizes, and staff cuts.
We're anticipating a $6 million budget deficit, which is a big deal to a school district with a $100 million budget. That's 6% of the budget.
During the meeting, Superintendent Sean Hawker emphasized a hybrid 4-day school week.
It would be similar to a 4-day week, but just not every week. So that's the hybrid component of it.
Hawker says one of their main reasons for the budget deficit is loss of enrollment. The district lost more than 400 students this school year, and it expects another 300 student drop next school year.
High housing costs make it difficult for younger folks that may have kids in school to move here. That's evidenced by our maybe older than most would anticipate.
For grandparents like Molly Crawford, cost-cutting measures disappoint her.
I don't think that 4 days is long enough to get in all the subjects that the students need.
Her granddaughter will be in her last year of high school next year.
I want her to be able to have the best senior year possible. And that means good teachers, good subjects, and good extracurricular activities.
If Coeur d'Alene School District transitions into a 4-day school week, it won't be the first district in the area to do so.
I would say it's gone very well.
Post Falls School District began a 4-day school week this school year. The district did so to retain their staff and prevent layoffs.
We have seen an uptick in student attendance, which has been positive. We have not seen a decline in student achievement, which has also been a positive.
A hybrid 4-day school week will save the Coeur d'Alene School District about $500,000. The superintendent tells me every option is still on the table and it's still too early to make any decisions. He says the board will make final decisions sometime this spring. In Coeur d'Alene, Nathan Hyun, KREM 2 News.
Viewers have reached out to us after seeing reports overdose after overdose in Spokane. I found out the true scope of the problem may be hard to calculate. It's hard to know the true toll of the drug problem in Spokane, but Lieutenant Terry Prinninger says the trend so far this year is troubling.
Just over 30 mentions of the word Narcan in police reports in the cuts covering about a 9-day period.
That's through his checking police reports for words like Narcan or calls for police response that later turned out to be overdoses.
It does seem to be that there is a little bit of an increase just in the last few weeks.
For Spokane police, tracking overdoses is difficult. It isn't a crime, so they're not always logged. Other times, citizens are the ones administering Narcan, so there's no police report. Far more often, overdoses require an EMS response. So I reached out to the Spokane Fire Department. An information officer says data shows a consistent and significant rise in OD calls since 2022. That year, SFD responded to nearly 1,200 overdose calls, an average of 3 a day. Last year, that number ticked up to 1,600 overdose calls, averaging 4 a day. In the first 38 days of 2024 alone, SFD has responded to 249 overdoses, an average of 6 every day. Actual overdoses are likely higher since some come in as cardiac arrest calls.
It is very difficult to track.
One issue is the lack of a centralized source for tracking overdoses between police, fire, the medical examiner, and hospitals.
There is not, that I know of, any kind of repository where all 4 of those groups are placing that information into a single space.
Another unknown right now, what's causing the apparent rise. Lieutenant Prinninger says it's too early to know if it can be linked to a single drug or a new version of Spokane's current problem substance.
Fentanyl is the #1 problem we have. It is bar none, is outweighing all the other substances combined.
Spokane County Regional Health's online dashboard shows the most recent numbers from 2022. There were 215 overdose deaths, with 73% attributed to opioids. And tonight we're still waiting on data from the county medical examiner and Spokane County Regional Health District, including how many fatal overdoses there are so far this year. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
From the Palouse to Spokane to North Idaho, broken pipes have caused a lot of damage. We have heard from several viewers who wanted to know if their insurance would cover the costly breaks. Let's verify. To get the answer, we went straight to David Fort with the Washington State Office of the Insurance Commissioner.
Residential and commercial insurance policies cover sudden and accidental discharge of water from a plumbing source.
According to Fort, coverage from a sudden burst pipe could include pipe repairs, fixing any damage to your walls, drying out your carpets, and even temporary housing if the damage is bad enough.
As soon as the water stopped and it's stabilized, call the insurance company. Don't begin any repairs yet until you've notified the insurance company and allowed them the opportunity to look at the damage themselves so they can investigate.
But what if you aren't sure if there's a problem?
What the insurance commissioner really wants folks to know is that if you have any suspicions or beliefs that your pipes might have been damaged by the cold, have them inspected.
If you wait too long, Fort says you may be on the hook for the bill.
Hey, turn it off. If you uncover damage weeks, months, years later, and that damage, that small leak, seepage, is causing mold or dry rot, it is not going to be covered under your property policy. Property policies don't cover this type of slow, over time damage.
So we can verify, yes, homeowners insurance will cover burst pipes, but only if the damage is reported as soon as possible.
The sound of school starting.
Okay, gathering around, everybody.
And teacher kicking off class.
Let's see, who was producer Kirsten? Where's Kirsten at?
Mr. Jarsted's class.
You want this one just straight from here onto a full screen?
Newsline, this one's pretty ugly.
It's a bit more chaotic than the rest.
Good time.
This is Zachary Pasley's second year in the class.
When you see the inside of this class, you go, dang, it is crazy. So many things going on at the same time. How are we getting anything done? And it all goes going wild.
Wait, let's back up. What exactly are they getting done?
Anchors, are you ready?
This is Tiger TV.
3, 2, 1.
Every single morning in this class, we do a live morning show.
Good morning, Timberlake.
A pretty big production for a pretty small town.
Spirit Lake, Idaho. We're a relatively small school.
Small and a bit chaotic.
So I need to know exactly how many that is.
But successful.
When we finally put things together, you go, oh, this actually went well, or it looks good, or there's order in the chaos that you don't see.
They want to be the best at what they do.
And a lot of times they are. Tiger TV has won 16 student production awards.
It just takes some thought and some work and pressure towards wanting to succeed.
I love seeing the kids grow and get better, and just seeing the kids' confidence grow and just become all-around better people.
These awards hanging a reminder of how the chaos all comes together every day.
Yeah, so make sure you check your emails.
In Spirit Lake, Nicole Hernandez, KREM 2 News.
Thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 Plus for a look at some of the biggest news stories of the past week. For the most current news throughout the weekend, you can watch our latest newscast right here on KREM 2 Plus. Just look for them in the bottom navigation menu. I'm Tim Pham. Thanks for watching.